My name's Steve Miller. This is a presentation for CRJ306 Fall-A 2016 for Professor Brumfield. It's entitled Attitudes and Public Opinion Towards Capital Punishment. The attitudes of public opinion towards capital punishment have been polled and discussed and written about since its re-implementation in 1976. This year in California, we have two propositions on the ballot that are diametrically opposed. There's Proposition 62, which repeals the death penalty, and then is also retroactive, which would affect all of the prisoners on death row. And there's Proposition 66, which would actually streamline the process and make the death penalty quicker. They're two diametrically opposed propositions. So public opinion and sentiment will definitely be proven at the ballot box. Since this is CRJ, we are all into stats. So here are some brief stats. Currently there's 743 individuals on California's death row. The last execution took place on January 10th of 2006, 10 years ago, with that individual being on death row for 23 years. The current racial composition of death row, 36% African American, 32% white, 24% Hispanic. Interestingly, African Americans in California make up 5.7% of the general population, 39% are white, and 38% are Hispanic. So you can see that there's a large racial disparity as far as the inmates on death row. One of the good ways to evaluate public sentiment are the donors behind those propositions. Currently, the donors for Proposition 62 have raised $5.9 million, and the donors for Proposition 66 have raised $3.7 million. The groups and individuals that are supporting the propositions, Proposition 62, the repeal, is supported by the Libertarian Party, the California Democratic Party, the ACLU, and many minority groups. Proposition 66 is supported by the California Republican Party, police officers associations, and correctional officers associations. Multiple editorials have been written about the propositions and about the death penalty in general. One editorial by Van Jones, who is a social justice advocate, whether famous or infamous depending on your positions, was published in the OC Register, which is a pretty conservative newspaper, on September 16th of 2016. He basically wrote, one of the stats that he came up with was that 85% of the people sentenced to death row in 2015 were people of color. So he primarily thinks that Proposition 66 would affect people of color, which you can see from the stats on the board is probably right. Currently, polls as of 9/27/16 on the repeal are yes 48%, no 37%. Proposition 66 is yes 35%, no 23%, and undecided 42%, which it's a very complicated law, so you can pretty much see why that would occur. So it looks like the public sentiment in California is to repeal the death penalty in California. Based on the racial disparities and many other things, that's probably a great idea. Thank you.